You gotta love the endgame for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind. It just continues to get crazier and crazier the more we watch. I do want to make a quick mention as the episodes, this series is 39 episodes total, so you would think the final 3 episodes would carry on into the summer 2019 anime season, which they are. However, next week there will be a JoJo episode as per usual. However, the final 2 episodes, they won't be coming out, I think, until the 28th, which is a Sunday. The reason is because they had 3 recaps, so the time slots that basically are reserved for other anime, it's just how it has to work out. So the final 2 episodes, they'll be at the end of next month here, which, it's a bit of a wait, but I mean, I'm fine waiting for quality of JoJo. It's going to be a great finale, but that's just how it works. You had 3 recaps, so the final episode didn't end today like it would have, so that's just how it's going to work. People will bitch, I'm sure, but that's just how time slots work for TV. So it'll be interesting to see just how the fandom reacts to that, because there will be a little bit of a break. But let's talk about this week's episode. First things first, I love the idea that you have the split personality of the boss and how it relates to Doppio and how they kind of got split up into 2 different people when the whole swapping of souls kind of worked. And I was really curious, who was the boss going to be inhabiting? Would it be just a random person? Would it be an animal? Honestly, I was kind of leaning towards an animal, something creeping alongside the cast, maybe a bird, something like that. And to see that because it was the whole split personality, that he could actually share a body with someone, that's super terrifying, because this stand, it does have a limit of how far it can reach. It's a pretty close quarters stand, so how the hell did we just lose a character when the boss was nowhere to be seen? How the hell did Mista's gun get broke? Was it really just wear and tear, or did the boss do something? It's super just tense and frightening watching something play out where the viewer, unless you read the manga, has really no idea how this could all be occurring, because it just logically doesn't make sense. There is nothing around him, so my thought was it has to be an animal, and that's how it was able to creep alongside. Hell, it could have been an ant for all we knew. Clearly something like that would have to be how the boss was tagging along, and then to just see that there was someone living inside our characters all along, and just how it almost acts as like a sort of betrayal, because Giorno's saying one of us is possessed. And to have basically that knowledge thrown into your face, you're going to have characters like Mista very confused and cautious, because just because Giorno says this doesn't mean Giorno can't be possessed. Why do I have to be possessed? Because not only might your friends kill you, you might have to kill your friends. It's this whole just debate of who truly is in the right and who's in the wrong, because just because Giorno says some words of wisdom doesn't mean you should trust him. Giorno's saying there's no way I could be possessed just based on how this whole swapping occurred, but it's understandable why not everyone would be game for getting touched by someone who could easily kill you the moment they approach you. And I just love that whole situation playing out. It is such a tense situation, because as the arrow is walking away, from our point of view, you can say it's fine if the arrow does walk away, because it really is just walking on a pretty straight and narrow path. And if what Giorno is saying is true, the boss can't approach him, as we're not approaching him right now. But it's still a pretty tense situation overall, because at any moment, either one of these characters could be the boss and will kill another character. We just lost one, we could easily lose another. And that's what's so intense about it. And then to just see poor Trish get just destroyed by her father being like, if it wasn't for you releasing your stand, you would have won. And to just see this man who is all about fate, just trying to say I'm going to erase my past, and if I erase my past, my fate will be mine. And I love the idea that in the beginning of this episode, it seems like Trish is kind of the downfall of the group, because if she didn't use their stand, then there's no way the boss could have done anything, because it was the whole manipulating the stand to be able to get the body away. But at the end of the episode, because the Spice Girls, the entire reason his fate was turned upside down was because of his past. The past that he keeps trying to erase is the thing that's actually now holding him down. It's just an ironic kind of twist of fate, being like, I have fate in the palm of my hand, and he can control destiny by manipulating time. And to just see that reaction and just distraught in King Crimson, it was so nice, because it does look like we lost Trish. It does look like King Crimson is about to get it, but I don't think so. I think one of our heroes are about to at least grab the arrow, if not use it. I think we're going to have another JoJo turn of events where it looks like the villain's about to get it, and then in comes a master plan by Giorno who just shifts this entire battlefield on its head. And that's kind of the brilliance of Golden Wind in JoJo overall. This was just so interesting. I love the idea of this endgame. It's a character walking down the street with an all-powerful nuclear bomb in his hand, and who the hell is the boss, and how can we defeat him? It's not like we're just punching the boss real hard for 5 episodes. It's literally, the boss could be anywhere right now, and we have to not only figure out where he is, we also have to figure out a way to stop this stand. Because this stand, you can't touch it. If you do anything, it will just turn you on your head. And I love that. It is such a different endgame than what we're typically used to. We've had action, sure, but for the most part, it's really just you have to think on your feet and figure out how you can outplay your opponent. For the boss, of course, it's going to be our gang, and for our gang, it's of course going to be the boss and King Crimson. And it's such an interesting just final battle in comparison to the other parts we've seen up till now. And I love that because it's all about who can get that power up first. Whoever gets that power up first, in theory, should win this entire game of chess. And I love that. It's so different. It's so unique. And I love how even in the end stages, the way the stands are being creative is still the highlight of these battles. The idea of how you can use your elasticity and just manipulate the boss in such a way, and manipulates the bullets. The idea of how he can just erase the time that he was there so he's not getting hit by the bullets. I just loved how these stands, it's just so much more than just being stronger than the other. It's how you can be more creative than the other. And how David Production went the route of just really fleshing out just the time warp and just how it just feels like things aren't natural. Hell, characters are literally morphing into something that doesn't feel like what they should be. It's as if time is being sped up by 4 million years when really they have been around for just 10 minutes being like this. It's such an intense sequence, and it just feels like all hope is lost, but it almost feels like all hope is lost for both sides right now. At any moment, the boss can lose, and at any moment, Giorno's side could lose. And it feels as if, even if you get that arrow, can you really stop everything that just happened? I love the idea of shadows in this episode and how, you know, depending on perspective, the shadow would be at a different spot. And how could that be? There has to be a source of light kind of backing this stand, and that's how it can basically manipulate this entire world surrounding it. The boss, you know, he hasn't had too many moments in battle of kind of doing that Giorno thinking on his feet and just completely shattering expectations, but this was his moment of just shattering a stand who seemed indestructible and pulled that Giorno card of just pulling just logic out of his ass, being like, hey, I'm going to crack the code that no one else could. And it makes sense because he's been tagging along with these characters, waiting for his moment, kind of piecing the clues together, finishing the puzzle. So once he knew how to destroy this stand and get the arrow for himself, it just made sense. But it just felt like such a Giorno move that I've come to know and love, where Giorno would just kind of pop up saying like, hey guys, I just cracked this code. I'm going to be Einstein right now and just explain what just happened, which will shatter the viewer's mind alongside the central character's mind. This was just fun to just see how this endgame just continues to get more and more impressive, as I really thought the boss would have been in the animal's body, something like that, and to just see how he was lingering with our crew, which would also explain the previous death, and then to just see how he not only destroyed a stand who seemingly was invincible, who did have his own Achilles heel, to then just that whole brutal bloodshed in the final few minutes to just see who is actually going to get that arrow. It's going to be very interesting just to see how next week's episode is going to play out, how big of a cliffhanger it's going to be as we wait for the final 2 episodes a few weeks from next week's episode. It's going to be interesting for sure, but you gotta love the voice acting in this episode. I think my favorite part in this entire episode in terms of acting is when they're all at a standstill. They're all like a few meters apart, they're all discussing which body is the boss's soul lying in. And I just love the confusion, I love the rage, I love the distrust, because this is a group of characters who haven't been together all that long because Golden Wind takes place over such a short time frame, but they have really grown an interesting bond, and to have that be tossed out the window and just have characters really upset that you could even be possibly blaming me for maybe the death, for maybe even just causing more deaths in the future. It can't be me, this doesn't make sense, I'm saying this, my stand's saying this, Giorno is trying to counterpoint everything, and I love just the amount of distrust, and if it wasn't for Bruno, someone might have got shot there. I love that. I love how just the anger, the frustration, but also the guilt in everyone's voices there, because this is what they had to do, but it just feels like an act of betrayal because it can't be me, and even if it could be me, like, it just feels like nothing is making sense, and hell, Giorno might be the one to kill me. I just love that. I love the confusion. It's one of my favorite parts of the voice acting in the past month of JoJo. It just feels like everything that we had trust built up to this point was just tossed out the window, and it was really solid overall. But man, David Production is bringing their A game for this end game, which is no surprise, obviously. I mean, the A game was brought from day 1, episode 1 of Golden Wind, but this is just such a different feeling part, and I love how the end game feels like such a different end game than pretty much every battle up to this point. Like, literally, the boss could conquer the world given the arrow and just what he could do in the future, but at the end of the day, it feels like a personal story, and how everyone is literally just, the end game is them walking towards an arrow, and now that the walking is stopped, it's who's going to pierce that arrow first, and that's pretty exciting. I just thought this was a fun episode. I was just on the edge of my seat, Really worried we're about to lose another character, and it seems like we might have just lost another character, but at the same time, if maybe Giorno can get there soon enough, maybe the soul can still be attached, as we have seen him do that with Bruno in the past, but I guess only time will tell. Overall, this was a great episode. Let me know what everyone thought down in the comment section below. Manga readers, anime originals like myself, what did you think of this week's episode of JoJo? If you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you have been new. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.